but the idea was it was going to be a journey from London Victoria on the train down through Mitcham, Sutton, Epsom, Ashtead. Oh, thank you. Ending up in Dorking, walking out of Dorking station, main station, up to the roundabout, down the High Street, right at the pump corner, down West Street, and into the hall, and ending up at this point here, or some point here in this room. And that total distance, if you take that as 4.6 billion years that the planet's been in existence in theory, it's a very simple maths to just divide it up with all the markers from important markers of time, which I've done. And we're going to imagine the journey. There we go, you can see it through the distance. There's a tunnel through, we come up right up to the North Downs. And we're going to go in an old-fashioned train, because I do remember these old RB 421s, I think. They were the slam door when they used to actually trust you to not throw yourself out of a door, you know, treat you like slightly differently. So here we are, leave Victoria Station at 0 miles. The planet's just forming. Big lumps of rock and gas are smashing together. We're on the third rock from the sun, and off we go. Oh, I did like those old doors. As we're looking out the window as we're leaving, we've got huge lumps of rock smashing into us all over the place. It's a very dangerous time. And up here we've got this huge mini planet about to smash into us. Theta, it's called, or Thea, it's called. I've actually drawn this as an ice giant. I've adapted this picture so it's an ice giant because, well, I didn't really understand where all the water came from in the early days, and that was, you know, this is my imagination. So anyway, we carry on our journey. We get to Clapham Junction. Before this, there's no change. Before this, there's no real record of any rock. All the rocks have been re-churned up, but from this point of Clapham Junction, we've got some rocks up in the Laurentian Shield and Australia. You've got a few rocks, and we've got very early signs of life. So this is really the beginning. I'm saying this is where we get rails on our journey. So getting to Streatham Vale, 3,000 million years ago. First life, what is the first life? Single-cell organisms that are taking energy from carbon dioxide and maybe geothermal vents and the energy of the sun. And at this point, it's thought they're probably sort of purpley dark organisms because they're taking most of the spectrum. But as we move to 2,600 million years ago, the first photosynthesizing plants come along. And they use the little narrow bit of the spectrum that's not being used, which is why we have green plants, you know, the green organisms. They're giving off oxygen as a byproduct, which is poison to the old type of organisms. And the planet starts to become oxygen rich. And by the time you get to Sutton Station, there's so much oxygen, all the dissolved oxygen in the water is, all the iron in the water is oxygenating and turning into rust. So we've got rust world. So we better quickly get out of there before the wheels seize up. All the iron bands in the world, most of them are formed around this time. Just a huge amount of iron being laid down as iron oxide. We get to Ashtead, and the funguses, the simple organisms are growing, and we're getting, you know, they're becoming very successful at Ashtead, as you can see. We get halfway down our journey now. We've come all the way from London on the train. The railway line's crossing the M25 at Lower Ashtead, and oh dear. Before this point, all organisms reproduced asexually, and now we have sex. It's halfway through our journey, and it's all downhill from here. The railway doesn't actually go right over the top of the North Downs. There's a tunnel at Mickleham, quite a long tunnel. And in our journey, this represents ice world, a cryogenic period. The planet freezes a few times, it's thought, and almost completely freezes, or it sort of freezes to slush, depending on who you read. But very, very cold. Temperatures plummet. As we come out of the tunnel, we're into the Mickleham Bends. Your train's going alongside the River Mole, and you're into the Cambrian explosion. this is the time when everything was tried. You know, take it for granted, we've got 2 eyes and 2 arms, but it could have been that you had one of these, we could all be like this sort of form with 5 eyes and a sort of big vacuum cleaner bit out the front. I mean, there was all sorts of strange things going on. There was this thing here, they're still not sure if it's one of these or one of them. It's a mystery, you know. Ordovician, the Silurian extinction event. This is the first I've mentioned of the extinction events. There's a few of them. I've put 5 in. If you look on Wikipedia, actually it says there's 26 extinction events, including the one that we're apparently making. None of them are very well explained. There's a tiny little band in the rocks, and it's very difficult to understand what happens. So I'm going to have to just make stuff up. We've got a supernova exploding here, and gamma rays frazzling everything. 85% of marine species gone. But on our journey, time's very fast. Things pick up again. You're into the Devonian. The seas are flourishing. Fish are developing sturdy limbs. You've got coral reefs, the first sharks, sea scorpions, doing all right. Land, later on, as we're carrying on, life's going on to land. Simple plants, early vertebrates and insects are colonizing the land. We're doing all right, except Boxing and where by the time we get to Boxing and West Ham, another extinction event. 70% of all species become extinct, mostly marine organisms. This time I've said it's an asteroid that's struck a very thin part of the crust, and that's done for us. But again, do we know? Things pick up again as we carry on. We're getting on the edge of Denby's vineyard now. Lots of oxygen about, loads of plants producing lots of trees. This is the time the coal was laid down, huge amounts of trees and high levels of oxygen so that insects like this can grow enormous. They breathe through little holes in their exoskeleton, but without much oxygen, you can get dragonfly with meter wings like this one that's flown in the window here. But another extinction event, the Permian extinction, a very serious extinction. 96% of marine species and 70% of land species. I've made this one to be a heavy metal poisoning of the ocean because it's quite boring, Let's make the worst one the most boring one because that's what science is like. Jurassic, leaving his Denby's up here. I don't know if you can see that. You probably recognise this view. We're going past Denby's in the Triassic, and we've got the birds, mammals. There's a sort of early mammal. It's good time to be learning to live underground, as you'll see. But birds, dinosaurs are starting up. They're very successful, doing all right until we get to Dorking Station. Another extinction event. 75% of all species. Who knows what it is? I've put it here as a volcanic eruption, a rather lovely bit of lightning in a volcano. I don't know if you've seen photos of the lightning that occurs in volcanic eruptions. Pretty spectacular, but that's Dorking Station for us. Dorking Station's a train wreck. Let's get out of here. So we can leave the train station. We walk up the dual carriageway to the Cockerel roundabout. Dorking, of course, known for its giant silver cock. And we're into dinosaurs all over. Birds are about. Flying dinosaurs, we're doing all right. First flowering plants and pine trees have appeared for the first time. As we come down, turn right down the high street, we get to the town hall. We're into the Cretaceous, 100 million years ago. This is actually the time that the sand, Dorking, was just off the coast, and the sand that we're standing on now was laid down at this point in the high street, if you see what I mean. And here we've got Thomas Cubitt, our renowned local builder who built most of Belgravia and all the big buildings up there in London. Bees. We've got the first bees. He's caught a bee. Well done, sir. Late Cretaceous. And now we have the real classic dinosaurs, your big Tyrannosaurus Rex as we get to the KFC. These are these big, aggressive classic dinosaurs dominate the world, all down the high street, past the tattooist, past the chip shop, until we get to Pizza Express, really, where there's the next mass extinction event. And this mass extinction event, we have actually a small layer of iridium that we've detected. And of course, everybody knows this extinction was famously caused by aliens, as we all know. 75% of all species wiped out again. Non-avian dinosaurs gone. Anything over 25 kilos, about the size of a small dog, gone. Good news for birds and mammals. Some mammals take to the sea and become dolphins and whales at this point. Down the high street, we're to the former post office now, and you're into bird world. Birds take over, giant birds all over there, but this one's eating a small horse outside the post office. Doing wheelie birds, owls, songbirds, parrots. It was a really good time for birds. As you carry on down the high street, you get to St Thomas's Walk, and you get the first grasses, and you get the first bears, and you get the first cats. And I think with the first bears and the cats, that's probably why you're starting to see an end of birds' success. Except in New Zealand, where birds, continue successfully right up to the modern era. And down to the pump corner, turn right, and we're going down West Street now, and we get to the Mullins house. This is the only surviving house from one of the original passengers on the Mayflower that left for America in 1620. And this represents on our journey when the North and South America collided, and there was suddenly a land bridge. So there was a great interchange of animals. The giant sloths were going up north and bears were going down south, and there was this huge interaction in the Americas, which made quite a lot of difference. And we get to the gate outside, down the road, and we can see a strange character looming. Is it the bishop come to take our confession? No, it's the first hominin. Just as you're going through, you have to walk down the corridor, and then you through a little passageway down to this hall. As you're going through there, you'll see the first mammoths appear, modern elephants, giraffes, zebras, lions, blue whales are their current size, rhinoceroses and gazelles. It's starting to look very familiar. Just outside the door here, we've got the first creature from the genus Homo habilis, and he's appearing alongside one of the first cattle that was evolved in India at this time. And then we're into the hall. We're actually in this room. 10 foot away, we've got the first Neanderthal. 10 foot's about the length of a mini. So I've put some modern reconstructions of Neanderthal here in an old mini, 10-foot mini. I'm sure I know those. But yeah. 1.8 meters, you've got the first modern human evolving. Last time I did this slideshow, I had a photograph of Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un. This was in 2005 years ago. I thought, well, that'll go out of date. So, that won't be relevant. That'll date as quick as anything. But here we are. Well, we also had a slight problem with copyright on that. So I had to reconstruct it for this. So when I originally did the slideshow, I cut stuff out in Photoshop and pasted it on and spent a little time. But this time I sort of just asked AI, could you just make me a picture of Trump and Kim Jong and Putin dancing? That took about 1 minute to make that. You could just make the whole slideshow by asking the right question. It would be done in half an hour. This is the biggest change since 2019 in our lives. Since that time, I think, is this. Not quite got his height right, though. He's actually, if you look at that, he's actually a full 8 inches taller than those two. So, pretty good. And I don't know what's going on with his nose. But I also asked AI to do this. 44 centimeters, the first Homo sapiens out of Africa. Yes, I asked AI, it's got a bit confused and gave me 2 Kim Jongs. And I'm not really sure why they're laughing, but they seem to be having fun anyway. That's 44 centimeters. It's about like that. 26 centimeters. Neanderthals die out. We're on our own. We're the only Homo, we've got wild dogs were domesticated at that time. They'd start hanging around the campfire. Of course, 26 centimetres is about the height of one of these chihuahuas. If those wild dogs had seen what they had coming for them, I don't think they would have come out of the woods. 44 centimetres, size of a matchbox, size of a common match, standard match. It's 44 centimetres. At that point, the pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge were built. Not much distance. The edge of a box of matches. Julius Caesar's tax Britain, the Christian year 0. It's a tiny distance, and it gets smaller. So at 3.5 millimeters, which is about the thickness of a £2 coin. This one's a 2021, which was great back 5 years ago. Celebrating the Mayflower. It was at that thickness in our journey, this much distance away from me, that William Mullins, who was in the house that we saw earlier, went to America with his passengers and set up the Plymouth colony. Within a month, he was dead. Within months, he was dead. His wife was dead. His son was dead. His servant from Dorking, Robert Carter, was dead, and only his daughter Priscilla survived, and now has quite a few descendants. 2.2 millimeters. Start of the Industrial Revolution. That's about the thickness of a £1 coin. Spinning jenny, the steam engine, were invented, and industrialisation took off in the UK. Once you've studied geology, as I have with this society, you realise that Britain is very well endowed, and it's not really surprising that with all the different strata, and we had a bit of everything. We had coal, a bit of steel, and everything, and it really did make, really did help the Industrial Revolution start. So here you've got a picture of some Luddites sitting upon the spinning jenny and the steam engine and a £1 coin. 1945, I would say, was the start of the Anthropocene. Because you've got a record in the rock of radioactive fallout. It's not really agreed that that's the start of the Anthropocene. But I've said 1945, which is 0.6 millimeters away from the zero, the now, which is about the thickness of these pamphlets we used to get sent by the government about how to survive a nuclear bomb, which is basically you hid under a door, put some rubbish on top and waited till your skin fell off. I've put this together just before COVID, so, what's changed? Thickness of a human hair is about a 13-year-old's life. That was the age of my children when I put this together, but my life will be equal to about the thickness of a piece of paper by the time I'm done, which is really quite incredible when you think about the distance between here and Victoria, and you see a piece of paper floating around on Clapham Station, you think, well, how many bits of paper would it take to stack up to get to there? And we've got to zero. Here we are. But I did promise at the beginning it was going to be a journey in deep space and time. You've had time, so now we've got space. So from here, if I look in one direction, I can see 46 billion light years before the light is moving. The universe is expanding faster than the light can get to me. So I can't really see any further. I'm not saying there isn't anything further, but that's as far as I can see in that direction. And in that direction, again, 46 billion years. So we know at least there's 96 billion light years big at the moment. But if we go back up to the station, we get on the train, we go back up to Victoria, and then we get a tube over to St Pancras and jump on a high-speed train away, and we take the universe is still shrinking down during that time that we're going, it's going to be getting smaller and smaller. And in fact, when you get to Dover, just before customs, the entire 96 billion light years is about the size of a marble. And when you carry on, beyond 13.8 billion years ago, there isn't anything. Once you get on the ferry and go off into the channel, nothing exists. There's no time or universe, and you've gone beyond the Big Bang, the ultimate Big Bang Brexit, I've said. And it's the end of the line. Thank you very much. Thank you.